Welcome back to Dog on the Plot, and it looks like summer has arrived, and today's episode is our 2024 July plot tour. So it's been 2 weeks since I last spoke to you and 3 weeks since I last showed you the plot, and a lot has happened in that time. So I've had a couple of weeks off work for Wimbledon fortnight. Between watching the tennis, I've been down at the plot doing a lot of work, structurally as well as planting out and trying to get all of that stuff that I had into the ground and have places for it to put in the ground. Now, I feel like I need to give some fair warning. So if you're somebody who likes a plot that looks very neat, that looks very orderly and pretty, this is probably not going to be the plot for you. My cousin texted me last night and said, a clown has vomited on your plot. And she's not wrong. Things got a little bit weird, a little bit random, but bear with me. There's method behind the madness, I assure you. And I mean, I'm super pleased with how much I've got achieved in this time. So I'm really looking forward to showing you what I've done. So let's head into the allotment. Okay, so here we are on the approach. And here she is. So clearly this is quite a change from how it was just a few weeks ago. It has, as I've said, got a little bit bizarre, but we'll get into this in a little bit. But let's start at the back of the plot. I wanted to start here because I think this is the last view of the plot that I gave you. And at that point, I'd laid some cardboard over here because I'd cleared the 3 beds that were there, and I'd started laying some cardboard over in the corner. But you can see a lot has been built in the interim, and yeah, let's show you around. So I think the first thing that I constructed was this A-frame for the beans, and I bought an awful lot of bamboo canes from the allotment shop, which is the container just there. And these canes are very thick 8-foot canes, and they are 70p each. So I spent quite a bit of money on canes. And this is the same frame that I used last year, so my nephew's old swing set, and I put the canes around them slightly differently this year, in a different spot on the plot, but also I left this gap at the front so you can actually get in and pick the beans. Last year we were sending my nephew under this bit inside to pick the beans, which he wasn't too keen on. And the beans that we've got in here are Emergo runner beans and Sunset runner beans from Nick, which I'm really excited about. My excitement has been slightly dampened by the fact that there's not much of these beans left. They were pretty strong when they went in, but they have, as has everything, been thoroughly slugged. I think we'll get some. Okay, there's still bits there, and I've underplanted with nasturtiums as well. Now my slug defences are in. Right, there's the miscanthus grasses down. I also found a bag of straulch, so I stuck that down as well. But yeah, not been overly impressed by those slug defences. So I decided to extend the runner bean frame this year from the swing set. So I've used the 8-foot canes to come along from the frame, and then made a little crisscross frame at the end, and then completely did the same thing that I tried to avoid with the other one, which is that now you will have to go inside here to pick the beans. But I'm pretty happy with how that looks, and these beans have fared a little bit better against the slugs. What have we got in here? Here we are inside the frame. I have got the scarlet runner, okay, Greek gigante, and I think that might be it, because I ended up with an awful lot of runner beans. I wonder where my French beans went. We'll continue with the tour and hope to find them. And these beans are also underplanted with the nasturtiums, which is something I saw Francis Tophill do on Gardener's World. Now the rest of this bed is pumpkins. So I think there's 15 pumpkins in here. Some are a bit further along than others, so are exposed, but others I've been protecting. Now, speaking of slug protection, I've solved it. Famous last words, obviously, and I have not solved it for the beans, but for things like brassicas and squash, what I've done is bought produce bags. So these are bags that you can get in Sainsburys and Aldi, and I'm sure other supermarkets, and they're by the loose veg. And I think the ones in Sainsburys are like 30p each, and the ones in Aldi were 25p each. And you would put your loose veg in them. But what they're really good for is making little slug protectors for each of your plants. Now the key to doing this is to make sure that you fasten them tightly around the base of the plants. So tie a little knot, because I have found that slugs have come through this little bit and they've been in the netting. But if you tie it tightly, then it should keep them protected. Now there are some drawbacks, and I'll come to that in a little bit, but in terms of the squash, what we've got out here, we've got some crown prince, we've got some polar bear. They're courtesy of Clare from the Veg Block Thickens. I did it wrong, the Farmyard Garden. My goodness, Claire, how long has that channel name been changed? And I still go back to it. We've got a zombie from Danny at the Grow Up channel. Got that one right. We've got my own goosebumps. I had a blue banana, but it perished. It did that thing where it rots at the stem. So I've replaced that with some of my spare Uchikikuri ones that I sowed late. So I've got a few of those for where slugs might create gaps, and then I can fill those gaps. What else is in here? I think there's one Chioggia, there's one butternut squash that has survived. So each of these pumpkins, because they're going into, well, it's just solid clay basically. So what I ended up doing was digging quite a large hole for each of them and filling the hole with compost. So it's like they've been planted in a container of clay, but hopefully the roots will eventually penetrate the walls of the clay and reach the nutrients and moisture that is in there. Into the planting holes, so it was compost, it was, I had some ripped up comfrey leaves, and I think I put some of the seaweed feed and stuff inside the holes as well, because we know pumpkins are hungry plants. So I'm hoping that they're gonna do okay in there. But yeah, we've got 15 squash in this bed anyway, and I've got a few more to show you further down the plot. Let's fill in the back of the plot then, before we move forwards. Okay, so behind my runner bean structures, we have the fruit tree guild bed. It has a pear tree at the front here and then 2 apple trees behind it. This is where originally I had a cherry, and the cherry died, so it's been replaced with this pear from my cousin's garden, and it had a pear on it somewhere around here, but it fell off, and that was very disappointing. But then I found another one, so we may have one pear off of this tree. Below this one I've got comfrey. Well, comfrey's everywhere in this bed. There's some mint there, and the strawberries, cropped okay this year. This I think is the red currant. Wasn't a heavy cropper this year, but it's looking very healthy. I've got one of these drumstick alliums, which I had all over the garden last year, and I think I must have put the bulbs in here, not really knowing what they were, but only one has come up. This apple tree is the one that I put in when I got the plot. It's Elstar, and it has a few apples, so that's quite exciting. And the apple here, which is also from my cousin's garden and hasn't been in that long, but is doing excellent. Look at it, all of those. And that moth thing that invaded it doesn't seem to have done the apples any harm. And the other thing in this bed are the leeks. So I removed the leeks, I'll show you where they came from in a little moment, and replanted them here just so that they could have somewhere where they can flower for the pollinators. I absolutely loved the flowering of the leeks last year. So I'm hoping I buried those deep enough and they stay in the ground. And just behind that one is the grapevine that my plot neighbour Jim gave me. And it had been swamped because, I mean, take note of the strimming that I have done here. Everything has been trimmed multiple times, and it's exposed the grapevine, and it's actually doing really well. One of the areas that I tidied and trimmed yesterday was this bit at the back where my compost heaps are and the weeds are. So I had a really good trim of that area. I weeded out some of the brambles from the back. I've left the willow herb because it's flowering, and that'll be good for pollinators. But goodness, it gets tall. And to the other side of the fruit tree guild and the greenhouse, I've also tidied and trimmed. I can now get to my bathtub. It is not a bathtub that you would want to be getting into. I have been using this to water the spare plants that I've got here. So those are the achikikuri that will go out and replace any that get slugged. There's a few swede. I haven't put any swede out yet. These are spare leeks, and these are my Brussels sprouts, which I had been ready to put out, and I actually placed them in the bed that I thought I wanted them to go in, and then headed home to watch tennis and have lunch. And when I came back, they'd been pigeoned. The pigeon had decided it wanted to nibble on them all, so they've come back over here to recover, and hopefully they'll go out soon. The middles of the plants seem to be okay, so hopefully they'll be all right. And the rest of them are mostly brassicas. Those are the cauliflower graffiti there, and over in the broken shopping trolley there are more brassicas. Oh, some are tomatillos and some Rebecca, but these are all really spares now. So that leads us to the greenhouse. The greenhouse still only has 6 panes of glass in the roof, but I have got a lead on some more glass now. I put a sheet of polystyrene, well, no, what's it called, polycarbonate at the back there just to help, I guess. And actually it seems to work because the tomatoes in here are all looking pretty good. I've recently pruned them, and so taken out all the side shoots and staked them, so they've all got their own bamboo cane now. Before they were all just flopped over, and I added a few marigolds into the pots as well. But we have fruits, so there's a Brad's Atomic coming, oh, with a little spider. It's meaning it won't focus. This one is a black strawberry, and over there we've got some of the blueberry, which is such a fabulous colour. But yeah, for the most part, really happy with how those tomatoes are doing in the greenhouse. They're doing a lot better than ones out here on the plot, but we'll get to those in a second because we're now on to the brassica bed. Oh my god, this looks bizarre, doesn't it? It's like they've all been cocooned. But these are all my brassicas that are out so far. I have got some gaps to fill. So there are, as I mentioned before, there were a couple where the slugs got into the bags, and so we just have the carnage that is left afterwards. And it's here that I can probably show you one of the issues with the bags, which is that if a plant has aphids, this one looks more like slug damage than aphid damage actually, but if there are aphids in there, of course they can't get out and predators can't get in to get them. So that is something you do have to watch out with this bag method. But I mean, if you look, but just where was it? Was it this one that I tested and didn't do the bag and just had the miscanthus grass? And you can see that's been completely eaten in comparison to this one in the bag. I'll stop eating in there. Yeah, it's not foolproof, but there are a lot more brassicas here than I would have had I not used the bags, I believe. I've got cauliflower graffiti in these ones, and these are quite small. Oh, I've also been putting down brambles, so spiky material that hopefully will deter the slugs as well. But these are quite small still in the bags. And obviously when they get too big for the bags, you'll have to take them off, and when crops need pollinating, so not the brassicas but other things, then you'll need to take them off. I have got one there who's being a tester. So far he's doing all right. This bed is kohlrabi and the gem corn, and as I've been needing the bags for other crops like the squash, I've been sacrificing some of the kohlrabi, but actually the slugs do seem to have eased off a little bit in the last few days, and these are still doing okay even without the bags on. On the opposite side in the cage, this is where I had all my cabbages. Those all got eaten, so I've replaced that with a line of cabbages there, but these ones are my 9-star broccoli, which I'm quite excited about, and they seem to be doing okay in the bags. There we go. Yep, looking all right. And there's the gem corn, and that's all doing fine. I have been sticking little nasturtiums everywhere. One of the things that I said last year was that I really wanted more nasturtiums on the plot. I had loads of cosmos, and actually some of the cosmos is coming back. I think it was over here. Oh no, has it been slugged? Has it been slugged? There's a tree cabbage and another tree cabbage, but there was, sure there was a cosmos in here. Is it underneath that bag? No. Slugged. Slugged, as has this nasturtium. Look, took its leaf right off. Didn't even eat it. Anyway, some of the cosmos have started to come back, so I'll be really happy if we get some splashes of pink again like we did last year. But I put those nasturtiums in for colour as well. Behind me just here, oh no, where? There, no, there. I'll turn the camera around. Are the not globe artichokes, the cadoons. There they are. And there's loads of flower heads on them, so I can't wait for them to open. A little ladybird on there as well. And then behind those I have all my buckets of main crop potatoes, which are looking fine. Yeah, really nice. I think we're just about getting some flowers. Yeah, that one there is just starting to flower. Now these potatoes are situated on the site where my Jerusalem artichokes were, and you can see 2 of them there, and I think there's a third one there. And the reason that I put the potatoes along here was because that is all that came up of the Jerusalem artichokes. That's it. So 3 of the gazillion of tubers that were along here, 3 came up. And all those people who told me, do not put Jerusalem artichokes in the ground, they will take over your plot, Danny. No, they have not taken over my plot because they've been flooded. They've been flooded and rotted in the ground, I assume. So I guess I'm glad to have the 3 that are there. I've got plenty more at home, so it's fine. I'm not going to be without Jerusalem artichokes, but it's quite funny that, yeah, I thought this would be a mass of Jerusalem artichoke foliage. Alas, not to be. Now what I have put in behind the potatoes, which does not look impressive right now, is some crocosmia that were slightly taking over in the garden, and I thought they could take over this floody patch, so they'll probably rot in the ground as well this year, but we might get some colour. They would have just gone in the compost otherwise, so might as well put them in the ground and see what they do. But I brought some logs over from the dumpy area on the site to again just make a bit of a barrier between my plot and my neighbour's plot over here, which is a little bit weedy, so just trying to distinguish my side from that one. So if we swing about from the brassica bed to this bed over here, which was what I was calling the perennial bed. Now last time you saw this, there were no raised beds in it at all. I had just put some cardboard down this area, But I decided that these 4 palette colours that I had were going to go here. And I'm really happy with that decision. So these are now planted up with courgettes. So there are 3 courgettes in this one, as well as some amaranth, which I'm hoping is going to look absolutely fantastic when it comes up. And I put some chives at the back there because this is a big slug habitat, and I'm hoping, I mean, it's not going to work, but I'm hoping that the chives will slightly deter them coming over from that side. But 2 courgettes in there, amaranth and chives, 2 courgettes in there, one of which is coming, amaranth and chives, and then 3 more in here with amaranth and chives. Some of them still quite small, so have the bags on to protect them. Others have gone unprotected, and as you can see, have had some slug damage, but seem to be okay. The other thing I did with these beds is put my tent poles into this beautiful little pattern. I'm so chuffed with this idea, and to have something growing around, so you get this like structural thing at the back of the plot, this side of the plot. Trouble is, I don't know what to grow up them. I had some chocha, and so I put those in, but they were already looking a little bit ropey, and yeah, they got slugged straight away. So I've now put trailing nasturtiums. I'm going to see if I can do the nasturtiums up around the poles. I'm not sure if that's going to work. Yeah, if I'd thought this through a little bit earlier, I could have saved something that would grow up them, but oh well. I do still have a spare area, which I've just covered with cardboard, and behind that are the perennials then. So we've got a gooseberry, a currant, the rhubarb, which has been looking good. I haven't harvested from this rhubarb this year, just letting it establish. The Taunton kale is recovering now from all the slug damage, and I've uncovered now the jostaberry and the saskatoon because the fruits I've harvested pretty much all the fruits, so the rest can be left for the birds now. And what should be just down here is the horseradish, another thing that I stuck in the ground and everybody told me not to. Where is it? Nobody knows. So I had pretty bad luck with my courgettes last year. I think in the end I had 2 plants, one of which I knew was a courgette, one of which I'd mistaken as a squash, and was in the squash bed but producing courgettes. And I had plenty from those 2 plants. I've obviously gone overkill with the number of plants here, but I also don't expect all of them to survive or produce. So we shall see, we shall see. Maybe famous last words and I'll be absolutely inundated, but that's a happy problem to have. Right, let's talk about this bed. So this bed was formed and planted up the last time I saw you, so you've seen this bed before, but things are going better now. The tomatoes have established, they've got flowers on and looking pretty good. This was the tomato that was slugged, and I put in a sucker next to it, so it might take over from the slugged one, or that might recover. We shall see. I keep putting marigolds in here. They keep getting slugged, whatever I put down. But yeah, tomatoes are looking okay. Lettuces fine in the little drawers. And then this one is newly planted up. This is the patty pan bed now. So it's still got onions in. My onions have been absolutely pathetic. They've done nothing. They look basically no different from when they first went into the ground, but I'm leaving them there. We'll see what they do. And I've just put around them all the patty pans that I had. Again, like the courgettes, it's like some will survive, some will not. So we shall see. In this bed I've added celeriac. Didn't do very well with celeriac last year, but the plants seem a lot healthier this year, so hopefully that will be okay. Oh, I just noticed, got a little tomato. Maybe we'll get tomatoes before the blight gets these. I've very little hope for them, I have to say. What else did I put in here? Oh yeah, so this has got some dwarf beans in. These are the yin yang beans, so I pop those in around the onions. Onions and beans are not a companion plant, shouldn't really be together, but hey ho, it's done it now. The onions that have done well, relatively, are the pink panther. These went in a lot later than the rest, and that seems to have done them well. We shall see. We'll see what comes of them. And that leads us to the front of the plot. And the first bed here, which is the bed with the sweet corn in. Sweet corn is doing fine. I continue to put things around the sweet corn. So some dwarf beans went in, some fennel went in. Again, fennel not a companion plant for things, but they all just keep getting slugged. I put some peas at the end. Yeah, pretty slugged. Behind them, I've got a couple of sugar pie pumpkins, which I'm hoping will climb up the bed frame. And probably the star of the plot is this Australian tree cabbage. It's the Real Seeds Paula Becky's Australian tree cabbage, and it is a magnificent beast. I think maybe 5 people on the allotment have asked me about this cabbage just in the last week, and I was pleased to see when I got home that I'd actually planted some seeds a few weeks ago, so I've got a tray of seedlings that need pricking out, so I'll be able to pass them around the plot. But yeah, I mean, that plant is the triumph of the plot so far. Okay, in front of it are the Charlottes. So these are the second early Charlotte potatoes. I have harvested one plant and there were some nice little potatoes there. So yeah, I'm leaving those a little bit longer. Hi! Because I've still got first earlies. So that side I know you're familiar with. It's this side that is brand new and thoroughly bizarre. So I had no clue really about the layout of this bed. I knew I had to do something with this bare space, and I had a few of those small old pallet collars left and some of the decking boards, and I basically just started placing things, sticking boards between them, and this is what we ended up with. And to be honest, pretty happy with it. It's nice and symmetrical. I do like something that's symmetrical, and the nice long thin beds mean that you can plant rows of things and they're very accessible. You can get in from either side for hopefully harvesting, fingers crossed, harvesting. Other things, so what's gone into these beds? In the centre I've got beetroot and chard, so they were plug plants that have gotten in. But then on the other side there I've done some direct sowing, so that's under the plastic, and these are carrots and spring onions. And then on this side I've put in more beetroot, radish and spinach. Not sure what to do with the little drawers at the end, and there's nothing in that one at the moment, so we've still got some space. Leeks have gone in either side of this bed, so I've got leeks on that pallet collar and leeks in the end one there, and also the loofah. Claire, look at that loofah. How does that compare to yours? Oh my goodness. Now this one has been slightly less slugged, but it's still super small. I had no luck with loofahs last year. I'm not expecting any loofahs this year. But if they did grow, they would grow up over this tent pole, meet in the middle, and all the loofahs would be hanging down. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Not going to happen. Dorie, what are you doing? Those balls aren't for you. Oh my goodness. Dog on the plot. Oh dear, stuck. I realise all the balls are the elephant in the room at the moment, but I promise you I will explain why there are coloured balls all over the plot in a moment. Okay, so leeks, and then we have an empty bed in the middle, which is the one that I was going to put the Brussels sprouts in that got pigeoned. That's where they were placed, and then I picked them all up so that they can recover. At the front of the plot, in front of these new beds, well, it is a great bit of soil. So this is where the absolute mammoth pile of compost was dumped, and there's none left. It's been now distributed all around the plot, but where it was piled is just lovely composty ground. So I've put in my Cape gooseberries. Now Claire, they are looking quite good. Are they not? They've got flowers on. I think we might even have some lanterns forming. In front of them I put some teddy bear sunflowers. There are squash either side, these are the baked potato, and some Rebecca around there as well. I'm really trying to pretty the front of the plot, which will be helped by all the self-seeded cosmos that's down here. So this one hasn't got slugged and is all along the edge of the plot along with the tree spinach. I've also put some ropey looking flowers in at the corners. Oh, speaking of which, now that is a self-seeded vegetable mallow. I had lots of vegetable mallow on the plot last year, but on the other side, this rather sad looking one, but it's only sad because it's just been planted, a root of it, is a mallow from one of my plot neighbours further down the site. And that mallow is a beautiful deep purple, and I don't think it's a vegetable mallow, although I assume still edible, more of an ornamental, but I thought that would look really striking at the front of the plot. So I asked him to save me some seed when they go to seed, and I would plant them next year, and then he came up with 2 roots. So I've put them in the ground and hopefully they'll take. Right, the final bed, this side. So the Belfast sink is still at the front because it's too heavy to move, but eventually that needs to go somewhere else. I made a little begonia planter, again, trying to pretty the plot up a little bit. But this is where the potatoes were, all the first early potatoes. And I've got some still here, still slugged. These have been pretty poor cropping because the foliage just never got a chance to grow. But I have had some potatoes. So it wasn't a complete fail, and I don't really blame the fact that I did this experiment in the wood chip. I do think that is possible. I just think things were too weedy around here, and there was too much slug habitat. Anyway, to combat that, once I've taken out the potatoes, I'm moving the wood chip across this bed. So now I'm smothering the weeds. I weeded it and now smothering them that are along here. So I've still got comfrey, which I want. I put in some sunflowers, the weediest sunflowers you've ever seen. And of course, we've got the raspberries and the rhubarb along here as well. But yeah, I'm much happier with this. Now what you can see there is a brand new bed. And this one is planted up with tomatillos, all tomatillos. Oh, actually, I did put some perpetual spinach in between as well. We'll see if that comes up. But as with all the beds on the plot, nothing is screwed in. They're just balanced against bricks. So they're very, very makeshift. But in some ways, I hope that just demonstrates that you don't need to have like DIY skills and things to do an allotment. These pallet collars you can just open up and go. And yeah, if you do have bits of wood, you can just stick them on the ground and prop them up and put some compost in between and just get planting. All these beds were created in the same way. So I had weeded the space or cardboarded the space, then added the rabbit bedding on top, watered it really thoroughly, the cardboard and the rabbit bedding, and stamped it down because you don't want a lot of puffy air space in the bed. And then added compost on top, watered it in, let it settle for a few days, and then just planted directly in it. And it does seem to be working. So, oh, hang on, I've lost the dog. Go on, back you go. Go on. And now we come to the moment that you've been waiting for. These arches. And these are, well, they're not brand new in the sense that the arches were already there, at least these first 2 front ones. So I grew tromboncinos up then last year. But what I've added now is a new arch at the other end. And then I fed bamboo canes between the arches. Credit where credit's due. This was something I picked up from Mayo's channel, Spuds and Roses. She just talked about it. She said about putting the bamboo canes between the arches, and I thought that's a fabulous idea. And so that's what I did. And it was really simple. So obviously you need to measure the distance between your 2 arches so they're the right length for your bamboo canes. These are 8-foot bamboo canes. And then I fed the bamboo canes through the bars at either side of the arches to provide the centre support. And then I found these nets that were on Amazon that are 5 meters by 3 meters. And the first one fit perfectly. I was so pleased. And the second one came up short. So I sent it back and ordered a third, came up short. Sent it back, ordered a fourth, and finally that one fit. So it was a bit of back and forth, but yeah, I got the jute netting to fit both of the arches. So I think it looks really striking at the front of the plot. So if you look head on to the plot, you've got these double arches going through with the centre bed that looks very symmetrical. So I'm really chuffed with it, to be honest. And of course the idea is not that I just have jute arches either side, but that they actually get covered in crops all the way around. So what I've planted either side is beans. So this must be where some of the French beans are. I got Belotti, oh I forget, the Prince, no that was a dwarf. Oh, I forget all the other varieties I've got, but there are a run of beans as well. And then I've got tromboncinos, I've got a chikicuri, and I've got the snake bean. So this is the snake bean that I'm doing for the grow along on Instagram. And so I've got one plant that side. Everything is symmetrical as well. So the same planting on each side. And these snake beans are actually doing pretty well. If I show you the one on this side, you will see, let me see if it's still in bloom. It's just gone over. Now the flowers are absolutely stunning, but this flower has just gone over now. So I have to wait for another week to show you one of the bean flowers. But yeah, my hope is that it'll all grow over the arch and it'll look absolutely fantastic by, well, who knows, mid-November, the way this weather is going. Now, the balls. Why the balls? Well, because you've got bamboo canes that are pointing straight out, and you've got people that, I mean, there's a small child on the plot opposite mine. I've got my nephew who runs manically around the plot. Last thing I want them doing is poking their eye out with a bamboo pole. So I wanted to protect the points. Now what I've done in the past is use beer cans and little mini wine bottles and things, but they don't really sit when the canes are horizontal. They're okay if you've got vertical canes, but they're not so great for the horizontal ones. So again, credit where credit's due. I saw this on a reel, I think, or a short from Emma's Allotment Diaries, and she'd done it on one of her structures. And I sent a message out to the family, because they've all got loads of kids. Do they have any of these like balls from when the children were small? And what it turned out was the church where I get my grass clippings from, the nursery that's there, they had loads that they wanted to get rid of. So my aunt gave me a big bag of them, and then I just went a bit mad. So I did what I needed to do, and then I just carried on up the arches. And Bob, bless him, who does the shop, so he was sitting there watching me on Sunday morning. He's like, who's the 8-foot kid who's poking the eye out? But it would look silly if I'd stopped halfway. So I went all the way, and then I just kept going. So I decided to do the tops of all of the tomato supports there. I added some to the canes over there. I put them on the ends of the canes there. And I mean, how I feel is that although I've fully planted up the plot now, everything is really small and there's not much colour. So by sticking all these coloured balls everywhere, it really brightens up the plot. And until the plants get established and hopefully flower and we have fruits and we have produce, in the meantime, we have coloured balls. So admittedly, it's not to everybody's taste, I think. I'm not even sure it's to my taste, but it's brightening things up, and you know what? I'm all for it. I'm here for it. It's fun. Now, before I go, there's one more thing I want to show you, and I have never shown you this part of the plot before. Okay. This is my shed, and I really don't think I have ever shown you in my shed because you couldn't get into it. It was a wall of stuff from there. I think the last time I probably filmed in the shed was from a different angle, looking out into the plot. There we go. And I was sitting here while it was pouring with rain. I think it was this time last year, actually. It was when I had the 2 weeks off. But this view of the shed, actually indoors, I don't think I've ever shown you because I've not been able to. I think that time I sat here while it was raining was the last time I was ever able to get into it. But I have completely tidied it. It's very organized now. I mean, I'm feeling like I'm filming it now and you're like, what? Seriously? How did it look before? I should have done it before because I have to say, it's just a game changer, absolute game changer. It's bizarre, of all the things that I've done on the plot, I might be most proud of the fact that I've cleaned my shed. No, I'm not. I'm most proud of my arches. I'm really chuffed with those. You know when you have an idea in your head and you know how you want it to look, but so rarely it actually gets to that point. But this, it turned out just as I was hoping it would. Now I just need things to grow up it. I can just imagine, you know, we're in like mid-September and everything is still like waist high on the arches, but oh well. So what a difference a couple of weeks make. I'm really happy with what I've achieved in that time. It's really nice to see the allotment take shape again and it's all full. Just need things to start growing. And it was so nice to come down here yesterday and not feel that there was some big tasks to be done or a panic about things needing to be planted out. And instead I could just kind of come down here and titivate around the edges and just enjoy being on the plot again. But yeah, just want things to start growing now, really. So thank you for joining me on July 2024 plot tour.